How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome back to another episode of Headcases, and I've got to admit that today's guest is a repeat offender, and while we've only had a few that have been on numerous times, we've definitely had her back, and yes, she's that good. We ran out of time on the first podcast about beauty industry myths busting, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have her back on for part two. So just give you a bit of a review on who she is. Celene Dupuis is an award-winning entrepreneur, a leadership coach, and sought-after keynote speaker. She's built a thriving, high-performance business while mentoring leaders, entrepreneurs, and teams to create sustainable success. To bust more industry myths, let's get into this week's repeat head case, Celene Dupuis. Celene, here we are with part two. You know, when I was thinking about it, just we did that first five. We talked about the first five myths that there is in our beauty industry and how some of them are all just disabling stories, etc. But when I got away from it, because I was disappointed we couldn't do all of them, I got away and I said, you know what? I'm kind of glad that we didn't do all of them at the same time, just from a digestion point. Number one, welcome back. I think now, just as so you know, you're only I think you're now of these is 123 that we've done so far, and there's only 4 people that we've had back on twice.
Oh,
and 3 of them we had on at the same time. So really, you're only the second person that has been back twice. So, and I think it's just because you have so much to offer. So welcome back.
well, thank you. You're feeding my competitive spirit, so I appreciate that.
Well, actually, I think that sets us up with this really well. So, I mean, I'm going to encourage, listen, anybody, if you're watching this one and you haven't gone back, go back and watch the other one that'll be just labeled 10 myths in our beauty industry that we want to bust. So we're back and we've got 5 more to bust with you. So let's just jump into it. So tell me what's another one of your favorite myths that are out there?
Yeah, I love this. Thanks, Chris. And, you know, as I get into this, to the 6th one, what I would say is what's the big deal about even busting these myths? Like, why are we even doing it? And the thing that I always like an implementation tool. And it's like, here's the deal. If you're a hairdresser or you're a salon owner, it's like, turn and teach this. That's the implementation tool. Because I mean, we want you to really hear this and to, understand how to grow your business. And so this one hits hard. The 6th one, some people will say it this way: I'm not a numbers person, or
Right.
I've heard it saying like, I'm an artist, I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah.
And so I think that one is huge in our industry because I think, again, being people pleasers, a lot of people have a hard time, number one, stylists charging their worth. I think that or emotionally discounting clients, right? And I think salon owners, the same thing goes. Often, we're afraid to set profitable pricing or put in systems like profitable back bar. Profitable back bar, basically, if you don't know, is where you're moving to a parts and labor system, so that you're not losing money on every service. And to me, it's shocking. Like less than 10% of salons break even or are profitable.
Right.
And I mean, there's a reason, and it's because the beauty industry, we're bleeding hearts, and that's beautiful. But also, money doesn't have to be an icky thing. Money's a tool.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have more money, you can do more amazing things for your community. You can give more people job opportunities. Stylists, if you make more money, you can get involved. You can give back to charity. You can do all sorts of things. So I think We are salespeople. Like we are, and it's more than just selling the home care recommendations that sit at the front of your salon, right? We are selling looks and trends. We are selling a culture. We're selling, if you're a salon owner, you're selling a lifestyle. You're selling, a community. You're selling a career, essentially. And so I think when you really understand what it is that you sell, I think that when you shift the mindset, again, the first podcast, we talked about the results model and your
Yep.
self concept. And, if you struggle with sales, you need to look at your self concept. A lot of times, people who struggle with sales, it's like, well, I'm worried. You think about an experience you had. You're like that used car salesman, like they were so pushy.
Yep.
And so oftentimes it's like maybe you're afraid to seem pushy. Well, that's your self image. You're worried how people will perceive you, right? Or maybe you don't feel confident enough in your abilities to make expert recommendations. Like I know, like TikTok makeup artists, I'll ask all my staff, how many of you have bought something off TikTok? Like some makeup or something from TikTok because you were influenced. Well, all of them said they were. I'm
Yep.
like, why did you buy it? And they're like, well, they're the expert at that. I'm like, well, how much money have you put into your career? Are you not an expert? So
Yep.
why aren't you making recommendations that are going to solve the challenges that your guests see? And those recommendations could be more than just a bottle of shampoo. It could be a treatment in the salon. It could be a scalp therapy. Like it goes beyond just a physical bottle of shampoo.
Yeah, there's a story, and I know you've probably heard it. I've told it 1,000 times. I got it from somebody. I didn't make it up. But there's this story of Pablo Picasso sitting at a bus stop, and somebody asked him to do a doodle, and he did it, passed it over to him, and he said thank you. And Pablo said, "Yeah, you're welcome. That'll be $25,000." And he said, $25,000 only took you 5 minutes. He said, you're not paying for the 5 minutes it took it in. You're paying for the 25 years it took me to learn how to do that in 5 minutes. And to the point, we're not saying that you should automatically charge $25,000, but your point, and I've heard you say this many times, we don't realize our worth and we don't put ourselves at the expert level when we are,
Yeah.
and I think that's the biggest thing. And I know you know this. There's all these archetypes that we have, just meaning what's your sort of in person? Are you the warrior? Are you the caregiver? Are you the jester? Are you, whomever? And I think you've nailed it on the top, right on the head when you've been talking about we're people pleasers and we're caregivers, but that doesn't mean you sell everything away. Sell is not a four-letter word.
Yeah.
You're not doing harm to people. You can have somebody come in, and if you just listen for cues and solving a problem, I tell people everywhere, and I've had people do it to me. If you can solve my problem, I'll give you whatever I can to get that problem solved. And it's not about the exact dollar, but if you're just selling something that is top line, oh, this is a shampoo you need. Well, that's a sale. I'll run away from it. But if you
Yeah.
can sell, here's the shiny hair you're missing. Here's the look that you've always wanted. I'll give you another story. I just got this one. Marjorie who books all this stuff is listening, and I had a client. I was at I was doing a seminar, and I cut using this one technique. I cut this woman's hair, and she's been after me for years to. I finally sent her the pictures of how to cut it, and she said nobody's been able to cut my hair. Would you just do the cut on a mannequin and send it to me so I can show it to hairdressers and how to do it? And that's my livelihood. No, I can't. The same way as yes, you can teach your client to how to blow dry their hair, but you're not going to teach the rest of the world how to do it unless you have some income coming back. Life is sales. So, I think the sooner that we can get over that
Mhm.
if you have a partner, somebody had to make a sale somewhere along the line. So I think that's always the big one that's in there. I'm creative, therefore I'm not in sales.
Yeah. And I mean, I always say it's like the Pretty Woman effect. Or if you were a Selena fan, it's like the key scenes in both of those movies are the women are shopping and the salespeople assume based on who they are that they can't afford it. And it's just like every time you don't offer full service to your customers, you're in, like we've heard it, you're in their pocket. And it's like, well, I don't want to tell them about that treatment, or I don't want to, because again, that's back to your self-concept. You're worried about what they're going to think instead of giving them the information and the autonomy to make their own decision on what is important to them.
Yeah, no, and dead true. And again, like you say, it's mindset. And I think once people, I remember being at a show, and this was when I was in Saskatoon as well. And there was a manufacturer that came into town, and they said they were doing a business course, and they said, bring in your books. So I brought in my books, and Rita and I had gone on a holiday, and they looked at it. And I remember this business coach analyzed the books, because you had to sign up for get your books analyzed. And he said, look, he says, the only reason why you made money while you were on holiday was retail, because you had a 30% retail to service ratio. And he says that's where your money came from, so you could go on that holiday. And so, but it's the part in our culture, part of the culture was, how could you find what the client needed and what they wanted? Then all you had to do is recommend something that they wanted, not something that you think that they need.
Yeah.
So if I've got a problem, I can solve it, then I'll gladly pay for whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So we've done away, and now we know we're not only artists, we can be salespeople. What's the next myth?
I think this one hits a little bit on what we touched on last time about, when somebody moves on from your space. And I think particularly, I don't know that this translates for a stylist, but I think they need to understand what it feels like to be us. And that's like when team moves on, like when somebody quits or leaves your business, we can internalize it and tell ourselves that it's because I'm not a good leader.
Yeah.
And I think what I would hope, we talked about like career path and things like that. And if you're not happy, like I think in my business, I try and create always the next level. Like literally prices are based on demand. So if you're in demand and people keep paying for your price and you're fully booked and you're hitting all your KPIs and you're growing, I will never cap your price.
Right.
Right. Like that will always continue to move. So you can always continue to earn more, but we have a lot of stylists that move into leadership positions in the salon. And actually I was on a coaching call yesterday, and the stylist, or one of the salon owners on the call, was like, well, I haven't implemented this yet because I don't have the right managers in place. Like, stop waiting for your managers. Like, let a team member, like when we make this space, it's amazing. Like my stylists like rise up. Like I have a stylist that is part of our leadership team that actually runs all of our inventory, our weekly ordering. She does our orders off our budget. Like it's incredible. I have another one who runs our entire bridal business, is like deals with all of it. And neither of them are managers. They're compensated for their roles. But I mean, when team members move on, it doesn't mean you're a bad leader.
Right.
What I would ask myself first is, did I create that career path for them? Because not everyone wants to be just a service provider, right? Like they want to rise as leaders and have fulfillment in other areas. So do I have the career path available? Right. And, maybe they're just at a new season in their life and it has nothing to do with your leadership. Or the other side of that is that maybe they don't want to grow anymore.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is like, I'm on a life mission that like, I don't think I ever will stop growing. I'm always like, where can I go next? What class can I take? But not everybody's like me.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard for salon owners to remember. So if you're a stylist, you need to just remember that like, you don't have to be exactly like your salon owner, and that's okay. You just need to communicate what you need. And if I've grown somebody as far as I can grow them and I continue to push them too hard, then they may not feel like that is the place for me. Like, because then they feel like they're failing me all the time.
Yeah.
And I realized that I used to push people probably harder than they wanted to be pushed. So you can't coach someone without getting permission first.
Yeah.
You have to have their buy-in.
We talked about this, it was like months and months ago, but I know that we talked about the fact of that people, we have to, here's the part that I think is so important is that people will live up to what they want, not what we want for them. Mm-hmm. So if we set boundaries, and in talking to literally throughout the country to salon owners, I talk to them and they feel it's their responsibility to set the goals of what they should have, rather than saying, "What's your goals? What do you want?" And if you can say, all I want right now is I want to make X amount of dollars per year. I want to work so many days per week. And then from now, while that wouldn't have worked for me at one time, I would say now, fine. I had the great fortune to have somebody give me a manual of a very famous company that's out there. And inside there, they said that, and this is for salons, not a manufacturer, this was salon. And they said inside there, you have to have your worker bees, the ones that just want to get by, that bring in the money, that still do good work, quality work that meets your standards in the salon. And then you have your artistic team, your artistic directors, your that push and grow and encourage and inspire other people to want to get better. But I think if we as owners want to, as you say, here's what you have to do, then you're either going to set them up. So you're, like you said, you're living them. This is, I'm failing you. What we should do is say, what do you want? So we help to get them where they are, so they don't feel like they're failing. And I think that's the biggest shift that I see. So I know we've been talking for years about COVID and the shift that happened. How do you feel? Is some of the things we're talking about from COVID, the life balance and so on? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I think it certainly brought, I think anytime somebody goes through something traumatic, and I say this because one of the things I teach on is like how to rise through trauma. Because I've had like an unprecedented amount of trauma that I've dealt with. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it brings up like what's really important in life. I think also, we've got a new generation of people out there. Like, I'm 42. I think that's still very young, but already, like, when I'm hiring, I'll hire people that are like 19 years old. Like, a majority of my staff is between probably 21 and 24. I would say 75% of my staff is there. And already, like, they can't relate to the same things I can relate to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of salon owners will be like, well, these kids today just don't like to work.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. And what I would say is, like, there's many problems. All generations bring problems to the table. Like, I think Generation X, millennials, like Generation X, like, really kind of put unhealthy ideas in our head about what you needed to do to be successful. Right. And like, because a lot of what they did to be successful sometimes was to their own detriment of their own health. Like, I'm just looking at like my friends and their aging parents that like never took the time to take care of themselves because it was just all about working, raising the kids, right? And then I think like the millennials, like, remember the Generation X and the baby boomers were like, the millennials are lazy, and the millennials had their things. And now this new generation is like, we don't want to, who's working 40 plus hours a week? Are you nuts? Right. And so I think it's just like, we need to adjust how we do business. How I do business now is not what worked for me when I opened 10 years ago. Yeah. Like, last year I launched flexible career paths. And so here's the deal. Like, we offer 2 career paths. We offer a 30-hour a week, or if you're a fast tracker, like you have goals, like maybe a lot of stylists are like, I want to hit that 100K. I want to get down to like working my favorite hours, not working Saturdays, or specializing in just these services. You have to build demand for that. Yep. It doesn't fall in your lap. Right. So it's like, if you work the 36-hour track, you're going to get there a lot quicker, but we're going to let you pick whether you want to work 3, 4, or 5 days. And so, like, I don't care if you're in here 5 days a week or 3 days a week. It's like, what's happening when you are here? And so I think I've had to change and expand my mindset And that went right down to my self-esteem, because my self-ideals, going back to the results model, I surrounded myself with people. My dad was a business owner, and my dad and my uncle were like, well, you're not successful if you only work 9 to 5. Like, if you don't hustle, you'll never make money. And I mean, they weren't wrong. They were very successful. But it also, I mean, I haven't worked in an industry. You look at, I mean, I know both of us came from a Redken industry. When I look at really, really famous educators that are on the road all the time, a lot of that has come to sacrifices of their marriages, their relationships, their friendships. So, like, how do we create? I don't think there's such thing as balance, but how do we create, and how do we be intentional about where we're spending our time so we can create the life we want? And knowing that maybe this is a season where there's going to be a sacrifice to my personal life, but then you have to make that commitment that you're going to put more energy into that in the next season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really the part of it, is that like, I know that for me, I think the only reason I'm a baby boomer, and it was just like work, even to the point of, missing some of my kids' stuff, plays, games, events.
Yeah.
And it still haunts me. My kids always say it doesn't, but it's my guilt that I still carry. However, I think that's where we've got to change. I, as a boomer, can't, or if I was a millennial, I can't think of, this is the way that our era did it. If I want to have a successful business, I've got to think about, how can I make it accommodating for you, but still make it so that I help and guide you to know that you're just not going on a disaster route. So like you do, you'd help people say, look, if you're going to do this, here's what you're going to make. And how can I guide you and help to keep you on so you get the time off you want? But you still, when you're working, I always think that there's this whole thing on balance, that they say work-life balance. I think that is the biggest pile of El Toro caca that I've ever heard in my life, because there is no such thing as work-life balance. Yeah. In fact, it was Stephen Hawking that said, if there was balance in nature, we wouldn't be here, because nature only evolves when there's chaos or when there's change. So I think that the baby boomers, hear me out, that are out there, is take it from this old gray-haired dude that knows, in order to stay relevant, I had to change with the times. And I can't have the same management styles, systems, etc., that I had back when I started. I'm just going to say, I'll leave it at 30 years plus ago. So thank you. I think we have to change.
And you can't have one extreme or the other. Like, I think also, like, the generation that's entering the workforce now, like, you got to know the first 1 to 3 years is going to be an investment period. And if you want to, like, I mean, yes, you can go low and slow, but it's gonna take you a lot longer. So it's like, what are your goals? Do you want to take 5 years to really see the paycheck? Or do you want to see it in the first 1 to 3? And I'll coach to whatever you want, but also it can't cost me money to have you stay in my business.
Exactly.
I'm not running a charity. Like, I mean, if my business fails, I'm personally liable for that loan. Yep. So, I mean, I'm not here for fun and for shits and giggles, because I love to do it. I do love what I do, but it has to be a balance that works for everybody.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I heard this great story 100 years ago. They said that owning a business is like a camel ride across the desert, and where you have people that want to make it across the desert, and that would be the staff and the owner, and the vehicle is the business. That's the camel. And what makes you get across the desert is the water, which is the money. And when you put it all together, it means that everybody has to, when you get tired, you got to ride the camel, meaning you can take money out. It also means that everybody's got to drink from the water. You can't just, the owner can't just drink from the water, and then the other people don't survive, or you can't give the camel some of the water, otherwise the business dies, etc. But if everybody takes a turn walking, everybody takes a turn drinking, and everybody takes a turn riding and walking, then everybody gets successfully across and to the other journey. So I think that's really what that's about. So
well put.
I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb. Next myth. What other things can we bust in here?
Oh, this one's painful, but it's that my clients only want me to do their service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this hits salon owners and it hits stylists. And here's the reason. Salon owners, a lot of us, a lot of you, I was there too. Like if you can't step out from behind the chair and your business is still successful, that means that like something needs to change. And if you don't have a business coach, I would hire one now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that one of the myths, or it's all fear-based, and one of the myths we tell ourselves is like, well, I can't step out from behind the chair because if I do, my clients will leave the salon, and because nobody can do their hair the way I can.
Right.
But like if you were coaching a soccer team, it'd be really hard to coach the team and be the star player on the field. Like, how do you do both? Right. And I think the challenge is, and here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right. If you're a salon owner, you can't be behind the chair. What I am saying, though, is that if you don't have time scheduled to work on your business, that's going to start suffering.
Yeah.
And so, and also you're in competition with your own stylists. And I will say the first month I had a plan. I wouldn't say it was easy, but the first month I was out from behind the chair, my business actually made more money than it did the previous month. And so I think if you go into it with a plan, but what I would say is like, how do I start? Well, take one day away and make that a day where you're working on your business. Like I started slowly. I did this over 2 years, right? And then I think for stylists, I mean, obviously you build your business behind the chair by having clients come back to you. And so, but here's the thing. So obviously we're training our clients that like, you want them to think you're the best and to keep coming back. That's not a bad thing. But we train them to think that like nobody else can touch their hair. And that limits us because when it's time for us to level up, raise prices, maybe you want to specialize. You're like, I want to specialize. I don't want to do haircuts anymore. I want to just do color services, or I just want to do extension services, or I want to do all hair cutting. Like I love design, right? Or whatever that might be. It's very hard to do it. Like I actually had a client bully me into doing her hair. And for some dumb reason, little voices, I stayed doing her hair after I left from behind the chair for another 3 months. And then when I finally was like, no more, she saw my other stylist and said, I actually like the way she does my hair better than you, Celene. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like, screw you. But I was also like, well, that means I did my job.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's what I would say to stylists. If you want to level up, yes, you want to give them 5-star experience, but you also want to teach them that like start working with an associate. The first thing I would do is have my associate, and I know Chris, you have an incredible, I don't know if I'm allowed to plug you, but I am. You have an incredible program that helps us to train associates. But what I would say is when you start working with an associate, the first thing I do as a stylist is let my clients know that, listen, I have trained this person to do a better job than I could.
Yes.
Right. And I'm so booked behind the chair that I can't give you the proper time. So they're going to do your scalp massage. They're going to do your blowout. They're going to do, and it gets them comfortable to know that like other people can do it too. So when you want to pass them off because you've raised your prices or it's not a service you love to do anymore, you're able to do that and move into the next phase of your career.
Yeah. And it's funny how in our industry we've got this mindset. My clients, well, and yes, they choose you. Your clients choose you, and whether you want to say, well, they are my clients or they're the salon clients or whatever, that's an argument for another time. But I think if you want to think successfully, profitably, how can I earn the most amount of money that I can? And I can say this because I used to feel that same way. I had that thing. My clients love me. They love the way I blow
And it feeds our ego.
hair. Yeah, exactly. It feeds my self. Well, my self concept, but maybe in a wrong way because I'm not thinking right as a business. And here's what I'll give you. And I know everybody has been through this particular experience. Is when you go to the doctor's office. I went to the doctor's office just a little while back, and my total time that I was there, from the time that I walked in till the time that I left, was about 35 minutes. So I sat in, I waited for my appointment. They called me in. Somebody brought me out. They did all my vitals. They took my blood pressure, took my weight. Well, they asked me my weight, and I lied. But they collect all the gatherings, yes?
Yeah.
It's just like having your hair shampooed. Then I remember I had some stuff done in my hand, and they took. Then I had some surgery on it because I had some trigger finger, and so another person came in, a nurse came in. They took out the scissors, or they did scissors, took out the stitches, checked everything out, asked me a bunch of questions, put all the notes in, and then the doctor came in and said, how you doing? How's it working? Did a little thing, was with me for about 2 to 3 minutes, left, and the person came back in, said, here's what I want you to do. Here's what the doctor is going to recommend. Do you need any painkillers? No, I don't. Okay, if you do, call me, etc. And then I went up to the front, checked me out. The doctor only spent the time that was really needed to look at the things that I absolutely needed them for, and everybody else did all the other stuff around it. I didn't think twice about it. I got expert service, but all the things that weren't necessary that the doctor to do, somebody else did. They had other positions for them. And I think if we took that on and understood that if I wasn't happy with it and wasn't happy with that, they still had to give me a great experience while I was there. I still loved them, but I loved the whole experience that I had right from this time that I walked in till the time that I left.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the doctor.
Yeah, 100%. It's back to those $15 an hour tasks versus like what's better time spent.
Yeah.
And when you're a busy stylist, that's not just for salon owners, but when you're a busy stylist, is your time best spent giving a shampoo and a scalp massage? Or is your time best spent or doing a root retouch even? Like, I mean, I can teach a monkey to do a root retouch. Like my 14-year-old son could do it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing creative about it. The things that your clients pay you for is for the creative things that when you're detailing a haircut, when you're detailing a haircut, you can have two pixies and the difference between a good one and a not good one is how they're detailed.
Yeah.
They can both be even. They're both technically a good haircut, but the detailing of our work or the creativeness, if you're coloring, it's the way you put in foils, the way you blend in the color. If you're doing a lived in look, those are the details that make your work creative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same. It's similar. Like even I don't get my nails done. I chew them, but that's about it. But I can remember visiting a buddy of mine, and he has it done at his house, and the masseuse was in there, and he said, "Look, I bought you an hour session with this masseuse. I have never had such an amazing massage in my life, just because of the the care that she put into it, and the way that she massaged different than everybody else." And I think that's the same. It's like the details that come from the person. Now, I'm sure that if I had a 15-minute massage, I would have got that same personal feeling to it. And I think that's what all of this amounts to, is just how do we personalize? And we don't have to do every little thing for the client to want us to be able to do it, you know? So, I mean, so that they think that every skill set that we have is only what they can do. And I think that sets us up for more of a scarcity in income than we can for an abundance. So, next myth.
Next myth. Okay, I'm going off book. I'm switching this one, Chris, because I feel like we nailed it. And we already talked about this, and what you just said popped up another one that I think comes up all the time.
I love it.
And that really is, I think that like you cannot make, we kind of briefly touched about it, but not really, is that like being a hairdresser or working in the beauty industry, you can't make money. You can't make a good living. And so I think that's a really important one that we really need to hit. And I think that, again, that's like the whole journey. I actually last year was the guest speaker, the keynote for our hair school grad. And so I asked the like, of course, it's all the students, but then all the parents and the aunts and the uncles. And I said, like, how many of you, like, honestly, please raise your hand, like, play along. How many of you felt concerned when your child told you they were going into the beauty industry? How many of you, the thought creeped in your head that they're not going to be able to earn a good living? And 75% of the room put up their hand.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting is like, that's 100%. Like my dad was like, again, business owner. He's like, I don't care if you're a hairdresser, but he's like, I don't want you to struggle to pay your bills. And because he just didn't know. He's like, again, we talked about it at the beginning, $27,000 a year is average.
Yeah.
And so I think that you hit some nails on the head in the beginning on maybe why those numbers are there, people not reporting, all the different things. But here's what I would say is that like, this is an industry, and I mentioned it, like you can make as much money as you want to.
Yep.
It's like a pay to play.
Yep.
Right. And so, I mean, it is unlimited. Like in the High Performance Salon Academy, there's about 200 salon owners. And in July, we head to our next destination training, and there's an award banquet where we give away a 100K hairstylist award. I don't know how many they gave away. We do it every July. And this is North America. Yeah. I don't know how many they gave away, but there was at least 50 stylists that were nominated. And you have to be in person to win the award. So I would say it's probably triple that. But there were stylists that were taking 200K, like 300K. And so to me, that's incredible. Like when I tell my friends who went to university that are like, oh man, like, I'm making like 100K and, I'm working 40 hours a week and all these things. And I'm like, oh, I got people
and I got $100,000 in student debt.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have staff that are taking home after taxes more than 100K, and they're doing that on like 6 days, 6 hours, 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And at a 30-hour work week. Imagine if they were working 36, or like the sky is really the limit. And so I think that this is a career where the consumer thinks we charge a lot. I had somebody yesterday in an appointment say like, well, why am I paying $500 to get my hair done? It's like, yeah, but like the salon really doesn't really make a lot of money off of a service. Like they make 3 cents off a dollar off of your service. Yeah. Yep. But, and that's where I think the myth comes from, is because it's like, if you're not making money, it's because you don't have the right pricing structures. You don't have the right structures and systems in place. But like the sky's the limit. You can make so much money in this industry. In fact, a lot of the hairstylists I know, like I said, are out earning their partners.
Yeah, yeah. And I always love it when people ask, because it's when you say, how much money can you earn in our business? And there's this whole expression. I actually got this expression from Chris Sorby, where she'd always, her answer, if it was kind of a subjective answer, she would say, well, how long is a piece of string? And the point is when people ask me, how much money can you make in this business? My pat answer is exactly what you deserve. In other words, if you apply yourself working 6 hours a day, 3 days a week, you can make you can make as much money as you can within that time frame. Obviously, it's not infinite. It is by the hours, by the services that you can physically do in that hours. But it's like you said, how you level up your game. How are you improving so that you can charge and I think this is the key part, without gouging.
Yes.
Without gouging, what can you do based on your experience, based on what that is at fair market value in the industry?
Yeah.
And I think that's always what you have to look at. You can make tons of money in this business where you can't set your own wage rate in others.
Totally.
Or let me say, I'll have to take that back. There might be, but I don't know of them.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That's the beautiful thing about what we do.
I think the challenge and the limit in people's minds about that as well is, especially after COVID, because you brought that up. What changed in the industry is like a lot of independent stylists really started talking about charging your worth. And I think that's important. Let me be clear. But you have to understand how the market works and consumerism works. Like pricing is based on demand. When you're flying or you book a hotel, if nobody's flying or booking hotels, the prices go down.
Yep.
When you're in a high season, the prices go up. And so here's the thing is like people who are high in demand and booked all the time aren't people that give terrible service. They're going to give you get in demand by giving a 5-star experience and by obviously having talent and all the things. But like, you can't just charge $500 because your perceived value of yourself is that you're worth it. Like you have to have the built demand to be able to do that as well. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And maybe for a while, people will pay $500, but if they don't perceive the value of what you're giving them, they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to keep getting new clients. And in our industry, like the new guest retention, the average is only 18%.
Yeah.
That means if you see 10 new guests a month, you only keep 2. You lose 8 of those 10 new guests a month. You lose every month.
Yeah.
So how do I increase my new guest retention?
Yep.
Like your value has to go up and it has to match your pricing, and like pricing is based on demand. So if you're not 80% booked, like you probably shouldn't be looking at raising your prices.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really changed in our industry too, because before the internet, like when I was really heavy into the salon game, you shopped out. You advertised your work. They would say, look, people would come just because of your work. But they don't look at it that way anymore, as if you're not having a good social game and the images of your balayage and haircuts not out there. Right now, all the customers are shopping you, and they're shopping you on the internet. Just the same way as you're going to find the best price, the best quality, etc. with Amazon or whatever shopping service, that people have to do a great game right now. I was at a really great salon. Tons of great salons, but I remember I was doing an event for somebody that was on the East Coast. And I can remember after I did the program, there was one of the people were crying, talking to the owner. And they said, I said, look, it was something I did, my little voice again. They didn't like the class or whatever. And they said, no, they're coming to me because they want me to advertise more, because they're working their way back into the game and they think it's about advertising. And he had to tell them, no, it's not about advertising. I can advertise the death out of you, but the reality is no more people are going to come. You have to get your work on the internet.
100%.
You have to do that with a 5-star experience. So,
yeah.
I don't know. So I think, pardon me if I feel like I'm beating a dead horse on that one, because we've said that. So our next myth.
Yeah. And the last one is that you have to be, we'll say, overly competitive to survive. And what I
Oh,
mean about this is like I'm just going to say it, our industry has a really bad rap and it's toxic. Like, I mean, I isolated myself in this industry in my city for a long time because I needed to find other salon owners that were like-minded in the thinking that like there's enough business for everybody. Like you can support, it's like community over competition. You 100% as a stylist can support other salons. I mean, even there was a time when I was an educator, I wasn't even allowed to go to another manufacturer's
yeah.
class and talk about it because it was seen as like treason.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
while you should support the place that you work, that doesn't mean that you can't support other stylists and other businesses. And so I think that's a huge one. Like we try and partner with other salons as much as we can.
Good.
When I interview, I'm like, listen, if you want to open your own salon, it doesn't have to be a dirty little secret. I'll help you open your salon.
Yeah.
Like think
Yep.
about the magic we could create like together. And
Yep.
so I just think as a there is enough clients for everybody there, and there is enough business truly for everybody. And I think that the quicker that we understand that, the less we can get out of the toxicity that exists within our industry, because I mean it's not good. It's all fear-based thinking.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And I think that it comes down to that same thing. And I think in our last program we did, we were talking about, if I can remember correctly, about abundance versus scarcity. And
Yeah.
I think that's where if people could just say, look, there's enough to go around. I think this is, and again, I always say I'm not smart enough to think of this stuff on my own, but I think some of the best advice that I've got along the way was when somebody told me that the universe is like the universe abhors a vacuum.
Mm.
So if you got a vacuum in the universe, whatever, whether it's air or water or whatever, it will rush in to fill that void. So if the water goes out of a space and there's no water to go in, something has to go in there to fill that space.
Yeah.
And the way they put that to me was your brain is the same way. Your soul, that what you give out is the same way. So if you hold on to everything that you do, I remember, and this was, oh God, in the 70s when competition, I was heavy into competition, and I remember people that won all the time were doing exactly the same thing. They just did it over and over and over again. Every time that they were in a competition and they'd win, they were doing almost the same haircut. But then the trend shifted and everybody knew what that was, but they wanted that new thing. And all of a sudden they weren't winning anymore. And they kept doing the same thing all the time. And pretty soon they just went into oblivion because they weren't adding anything new on to the experience. They weren't adding and learning what was new. And I think that if you think of it like your brain that way, I love your thing. Is you said it. If I know something, I'm going to give it away. I'm going to do it in a paid environment where I get paid. I'm going to give it away in another environment where I've got a friend that needs some advice. I'm just going to tell them what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing a show it was in I think it was in Michigan, and there was a whole bunch of other people there, and we always had to do these avant-garde presentations. And I remember this one kid came in and said, "Can I see your work?" And I went, "Sure." I brought him in and I showed him exactly how I made all the looks, and he said, "You know what? I went to everybody's room to see what they did in the finale, but everybody said I couldn't come into the room because those were all secrets that we did on how we did that avant-garde work." And I've always thought that, look, just like the universe abhors a vacuum, if your mind doesn't give away some of those ideas that you have, you don't have space to come up with a new idea.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
Well,
give stuff
abundance
away,
attracts more abundance.
exactly.
When you give it
Exactly.
away, it's going to flow back to you.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
damn. I'm going to have to you're going to have to be a three-peat. I tell you, we talked about having that you're the only this real second person that we had on that was on twice. Well, we got to have another record and have you come back again, because I've just solely enjoyed this, and I know that everybody else did. But before we leave, I know when we talk about this, Celene, they listen to you and they'll say, where do I get a hold of it? How can I learn more from her? How do people get a hold of you? What do they do?
Yeah, great question. So again, Instagram, great place. But my website has everything that you could need to know. So both my Instagram and my website is just my name. So it's www.celenedupuis.com. So celenedupuis.com. You can find out information about the Little Voice Mastery Program, how to sign up, what the investment is. You can find information about, if you're wanting to bring me in for an event that you're having, for like a speaker event, or information if you're a salon owner and you're like, I want to move to that next level. Let's get you involved with the High Performance Salon Academy. Because literally I've been a client for 8 years and been working for them as a mentor for the last 3. And I will say that has not only changed my business, but it's changed my life.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to go to that next level, those are the things I would say will take you there.
Well, Celene, I highly endorse that Little Voice Mastery. I've taken it myself. It's helped me both financially, relationship-wise, and also emotionally as well. So highly, highly recommend it. Celene, thank you. You're one of the most giving people that I know, and I love the industry, that how you've helped to evolve yourself and how you give away everything in the industry and help the people grow. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Chris. I will say that you're only as good as your leaders. You have been one of my leaders, for 20 plus years. And like you said, I can't take credit for all the ideas. If you don't give it away, I got them from somewhere, and that's from all the people that impacted me. So thanks for having me.
And me too. That's, I always say that. So listen, thank you. A pleasure. And we got to set up another one.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thanks again for watching this episode. And if you liked what you heard, remember to smash that like or follow button, depending on your preferred platform. And make sure to share it with anyone you know that might be a fellow Headcase. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.